can say nothing about it because we have almost none relationship with them. Main players in the region are Russia, America, and Europe.
What about Armenia? Relations better, worse, indifferent, in one
It is
sentence?
between us and Armenia. You know, in paintings they always use smile like this, not like this, but like this, because they do not want to burn. We have this expression, not to burn stick and shish kebab. They try to use this, you know, the approach, and they try to be nice toward the Russians as well, and try because they are pretty much dependent on us because their supply routes goes through the Georgia. All goods they receive from the Black Sea, and therefore they have to be nice to us. But at the same time, they pretty much are depending on the Russia, militarily, economically, etc.
I have a quick question. It's kind of going back in time and kind of getting a little tiny bit off topic, but you mentioned Georgia sent the third largest contingent to Iraq. I mean, obviously that's not a military move, so it's obviously a symbolic message. So what is the message?
The message is that Georgia, we spoke about, the message was that we spoke about the preparation for the war. The message was that we are supporting all international movement against the terrorism, against the, you know, the peacemaking. What I said about the third, that our country, we are getting ready for the peace, and our contribution in making peace and stability operations. I wanted just to show that how much we are involved in peacemaking process in Iraq, or now we are moving to in Afghanistan. We are increasing our number in Afghanistan.
Do you have problems at home? Why
We did not have problems at home that time because our.
Well, if you have peacekeepers in your country, that's a problem, right?
But it is different problem because when you were relying on the peacekeepers, then you had some move. Some freedom of the movement to participate in overseas operations. If we had a chance to make peace by ourselves, this is different issue. But at the same time, our number of our units let us to send support our friends to the Iraqi operations and to show up you're willing to support combating the terrorism.
So what idea were you supporting by sending these troops to Iraq? What you said you were supporting a certain agenda or an idea, right? So your friends, you're saying, but yes. So what is the idea of these friends, or what are you supporting?
You support this international combating on the war. This is
well, international could be kind of a way we can agree. It's not necessarily an international.
You are in there where your friends requires the most support, and our side decided America. We are in trouble in Iraq. This is the fact, and they required units. This is fact. They have increased 5 brigades. For their armed forces because of the lack of the armed forces, the men on ground in Iraq, and our government decided this is the time when our support is needed very much for our friends, and they decided to support in these operations. And it was the time when we had no active, the movements going besides the Russians, the renovation of the railways and some trainings and equipment process in Abkhazia, but nobody had the imagination that the problems will be converted in the war, and we are relying on very much on the United Nations observers and OSCE observers, and we are thinking that the political willing that had our government to solve this problem peacefully, it does not have any reason us to be, to be isolated from other operations and stay in the home and sit in the trenches and defending ourselves from others. We thought that this is the 21st century. There is nothing to be afraid of. But our government decided to increase these units in Afghanistan, in Iraq, because to support the closest friend what they had at that time, and it is the United States. It is the United States is the most reliable partner country for us. And at the same time, we did not participate only in Iraq. We participated in NATO-led operations in Kosovo. and now we are going to send our troops in Afghanistan. And we will be everywhere, and we will participate as much as our friends requires, because the United States has done quite many things in our country, and we cannot sit, just on our chairs and watch from the TV how is going on in Iraq or in Afghanistan. And this is our duty to be in problematic time with our friends.
So does Georgia then morally support Iraqi war?
Personally, me, I support morally.
Okay.
I physically support it also. I participated in Iraqi war. I was contingent commander in 2004, and my unit was conducting operations in Bakuba area, one of the toughest places in Iraq.
I have a slightly different answer, more blatant and more pragmatic, derived from a report prepared by a Washington-based think tank of the U.S. Congress that actually answers your question.
Which one?
I forgot. It's here.
All right, yeah. It's not.
Yeah. So essentially, it was a series of reports, and which define your United States interest in Georgia as security, including some, terrorism-related security, energy security, and then at the bottom of priorities, democratization, and so on and so forth. The United States has invested more money into Georgia than into any other post-Soviet country. And before the war between Georgia and Russia, Georgia had the largest per capita troops in Iraq. So the report makes a very simple conclusion. The United States funds Georgia's reforms. Georgia sends troops to the United States.
Yeah, that's why I kind of want to make clear that their connection is very, very close.
But besides, the United States have spent some money in Georgia. This is
A lot of money.
yes. Not so much. Nobody asked us to send a brigade in Iraq. Nobody asked us to send battalion in Iraq. It was our decision to send such size of the units in Iraq. The Americans, they do not demand you have to send. Whatever they do, first of all, this program that has been started in Georgian training recruit program was started because of the Pankisi Gorge problem. The Pankisi Gorge problem, why it happened? Because thanks to the Russia again, some Chechens, they escaped from Russia. The refugees were settled there. And of course, some bandits also came with them. But as the Zhirinovsky, you have one politician, Zhirinovsky, everybody knows, a very strange person. He was claiming that Georgia is hiding Taliban and Osama bin Laden. And one of the reasons he was telling that as you invaded Afghanistan, we have to invade Georgia as well. And when they started to speak seriously about the Taliban and the Wahhabitians in the region, then the Americans, they said that this is already our policy. If there is the enemy of the United States, the Taliban, and
that's my job.
Yeah, this is our job now, and they started to train our units to fight assault, imaginary Taliban in the Pankisi Gorge. But it was trained not because of the Iraq or Afghanistan, it was trained for the Pankisi
The program
Gorge.
evolved. It only lasted for 2 years, right? And then it was someplace to
There was not any Taliban or any Al-Qaeda there. It was some imaginations of the Zhirinovsky kind of the politician actions.
Wasn't the same true of Iraq though? There were like no Al-Qaeda there?
In
Taliban?
Iraq?
Right.
Iraq
Previously
is
claimed?
No, Iraq is different issue connected to the Pankisi Gorge. I'm talking about the willing that when we started to participate in Iraq, it was not demanded by the Americans. It was our will to participate in Iraq. And
There was also claimed there's Al-Qaeda there, right?
it
No,
was
the problem is
Al-Qaeda
as
there
it gets
too.
of the French
Everywhere,
and
the Al-Qaeda, in Arabic states, everywhere you find Al-Qaeda.
Mhm.
It is not so hard to find it. If you go alone on the streets, you say that I'm the American and who is the Al-Qaeda here, and they will find you very quickly.
So you didn't believe American intelligence saying there was Al-Qaeda in Iraq?
I don't know, it's about your intelligence. So I'm talking from our perspective, why we started to participate in Iraq. It was Georgian will to participate because to support our friends. And if tomorrow it will be required to send 2 brigades in Afghanistan, Georgia will send 3 brigades in Afghanistan to support this friend. This is the point.
does it matter that the United States plays the role of the most important conduit of Georgia's interest in NATO? And without America's support, Georgia has very slim chances of any to ever become a member.
United States is our friend. This is the starting point for us. Of course, the America is, because of the friend of us, we will do everything to support them because they try to do everything for us to support us.
Speaking of friends,
this is kind of a change.
a quick question.
Just a final question?
Yeah.